for me, the most challenging of panel discussions involving Meghan Cole has to be the one that was done on Captain Curt's channel. I know it's not as long as the one that was done on Michelle Sutton's channel, but it jumped all over the place and it seemed to go really, really fast. And before you could actually wrap your head around what was being said, she'd already moved on to something completely different. Or there'd been some kind of meltdown over a question because someone had questioned something she'd said previously, basically caught her out contradicting herself, and then things went haywire. So I'm going to do a number of videos focusing on various topics that were covered on Captain Curt's panel, because I think trying to just listen through that entire video and wrap your head around it is almost impossible. So my first one is going to focus on the question of why did Meghan Cole and Sami Smith choose to go to IckedMel and Tony Dodge for Sammy's interview and for Meghan Cole's first time speaking on someone's channel. As far as answering the question, I'm not sure that Meghan really does quite achieve that, but perhaps it'll give some insight as to why Tony Dodge and IckedMel as opposed to other channels. I will, of course, add my own insights and thoughts throughout this recording.
I'm just really confused on timing. I'm confused on a lot of things. I think it's kind of odd that the timing's different for me. Like, I don't understand how you had a connection to IckedMel. If you could explain that. I want to start by that. I want to understand how. Hold on.
I'll start there because I know where you're going to go.
Okay, so straight out, that was a rather defensive comment. She starts with, okay. And she says, I know where you're going to go. Now, let's put a bit of context behind all this. This particular panel that she did was well and truly towards the latter part of that big tour of YouTube that she did. So, at this point in time, she'd already been on panels with Michelle Sutton, What's the Obsession, and Tyler, the priest guy. So she was starting to realise that people actually listened to what she said and questioned what she said. And she'd been caught out multiple times over contradictions and lies and exaggerations. So I suspect that the reason that she went on Curt's panel was to try and put out fires, to try and fix things that she had previously said on other panels and try and make herself look a bit more rosy. Because if you go back and you listen to Michelle's panel, Meghan came onto it quite confident and extremely confident in herself. And she said to Michelle, well, you're something along the lines of, well, your channel's going to blow up now that I've been on here. That sense that she was super important and that people wanted to hear what she had to say because she had so much important things to say. And there was certainly no hint at that point in time of her thinking that people would think anything other than that she was some sort of hero swooping in to save the day. But of course, the following panel that she did was the one with Tyler Feller, and one of the first things he did was question her on her take on drink driving, because she had basically admitted on Michelle's panel that the kids all drink drive. It's just what people do in the area. No one bats an eyelid. So from that point on, I think she realised that she needed to be a bit more defensive. And so that's how she's come into this panel, defensive and ready to debunk anything or fix anything that she may have said that was wrong. And why is this significant? I think this is significant because we're seeing a switch from Meghan just blurting out a bunch of information to her being very selective about what information she presents, and if it's going to make her look bad, changing the narrative to fix that. So we have to be aware throughout this whole conversation that she's in the defensive phase. She's trying to fix things that she realises she shouldn't have said, and she's trying to reclaim her pedestal. She doesn't like being questioned or criticised.
Okay.
No, I'm not going. I just want to make a connection there because I was confused. I'm just confused because true crime in California and Florida, are you interested in true crime? That should be my first question. Let me ask you that.
I am also going to acknowledge the sheer brilliance that is Captain Curt. He has a way of defusing situations. So he recognised that she was coming in all defensive, and straight away he put it back onto him. No, it's me. I'm just a little bit confused. And then he brought it all down to a less confronting question. So rather than really launch in and get her stressed out and probably have the whole word salad, which occurred anyway, he brought it down to a neutral question. A question that could, whatever answer she gave, wouldn't be wrong, and had no personal connections for her in terms of it wasn't going to make her look bad no matter which way she answered. So kudos to Curt for his brilliant interviewing skills. I think the reason why this particular panel was good was because he did have a way of de-escalating things and bringing things back down to a calmer level.
Okay. I watch true crime, and when I say I watch true crime, I clean houses. And so therefore true crime, I watch videos that have been in the background, like I watch certain people, or I hear them in the background. I never comment and never talk about it. And it's usually old videos. And so it's things from years past. So it's never been something this is new because I've never been on a panel before this case, and I've never commented in any chats before this case. So I am true crime, but not invested it in the way that most of you people, or not you people, but most of your folks.
Hold on. That confused me even more. So you've never commented on a true crime thing prior to this, and you've never been on a panel. So
no, I mean prior to Kylie.
Apparently she's forgotten about the instance which she later told us about, where she went onto somebody's chat during the Summer Wells case and asked the question, is this live? And then got booted from the chat. That was long before Kylie's case. She also, on multiple occasions, admitted that she was following the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case. So by saying that this is the first time that she's forayed into true crime with live streams and all that sort of stuff, it's not quite accurate. We know that she was following the Summer Wells case. We know that she was in someone's chat room during the Summer Wells case and commented. And we also know that she followed the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case quite closely.
Right. Okay. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the statement about the IckedMel thing, so you had to have had some sort of connection with IckedMel in order to direct the interview. Is that, am I wrong there? Like,
okay. I've never, the day that I met IckedMel, he was somehow, I don't know how he was, because Kylie page came up on my phone, and so for locals missing, so I started, and so everybody started going to those pages. Somehow IckedMel came up on my screen on my phone. I have no idea who IckedMel is. I've talked to him like 1, maybe 2 days. That was it. At the first day, I don't know who he was. Never seen him before. Never talked to him before. Didn't even know who he was. Like, I didn't know who you are. I don't know half these people. I don't know any of these people. So that answers your question there.
So my question is, it had nothing to do with the 30-odd videos that IckedMel did on the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case? Are you truly telling us that you followed the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case really, really, really closely, and yet you'd never heard of IckedMel?
Yeah, no, I know. But what I'm saying is, didn't you say that you kind of suggested for the interview to reach out to somebody in the true crime community? Like, how did that go about?
I love that Curt knows when to reframe the questions. So, a lot of the panels we've seen where Meghan's been on, people have asked her a question, she's given an answer that hasn't exactly been a straight answer from what was being asked, and people have somehow missed that and not delved deeper. Curt, on the other hand, reframed the question, pointed out that she's the one who recommended to Sami who Sami should talk to, and was basically questioning this notion of Meghan just randomly coming across IckedMel out of the blue. And of course also questioning why Tony Dodge. He's basically calling her out and saying, no, this isn't an adequate answer. Tell us what the actual truth is.
Like, why was that something that was like irrelevant? Like, why was that important?
Oh, I can answer that. I'm trying to remember.
I'm trying to let you go. I'm not trying to guide you in the like, I'm asking a question based off of things that you've said. So I'm just,
I know. And I like that because I would prefer that. That's much better. I believe I said that if you're going to do I believe I said to said person, if you're going to do an interview.
Just as a quick aside, it really ticks me off the way she speaks during this panel. I believe I said to said person. Okay, for starters, it's not quite right grammar, but let's just let that pass. We all know you're talking about Sammy Smith, Meghan. That's the whole point of you going on panel. The question was, why did you go to IckedMel, and why did you recommend that Sami go to Tony Dodge? So why the hell go with said person? Sorry, that really ticked me off. I thought it was a really, really dumb strategy.
Make sure you do it with certain individuals, because I'd watched the certain case before this that took the world by storm. So I watched like those channels, and so I thought that she should do those channels because I thought they would be respectful of her and get the story out correctly. I didn't say that she should go to anybody in particular. I have never, let me say this right now, never been in Tony Dodge's panel. Never been. I think I've been in his chat now because of this, when he was doing the interview, but I don't know how Sam ended up with IckedMel or Tony Dodge.
Hold on. Let's rewind because this is kind of confusing to me. So
she's actually already contradicted herself right there by saying that she recommended certain channels to Sami because she'd followed them during the Amber Heard Tony Dodge case, although she didn't refer to it as specifically that case, but we know from later interviews that's what she's talking about. For some reason, she seems to think that to get around all these questions, that if she refers to things as said case or said person or the case that took the world by storm, well, actually, a lot of us didn't follow that case. But anyway, she seems to think that by going around it that way, that she's somehow, I don't know, absolving herself of any guilt of lying or something. I don't know. I really don't know why she chose to speak that way on that panel, but it was just really odd. She also, having previously claimed that since she has ADHD she doesn't forget anything, she then, in regards to Tony Dodge, says, I think I was on in his chat. I think you'd know if you were or you weren't. You're going to know which channels you've been into and whose chat rooms you've been in. Just my thoughts anyway. But note, at the end of this, Curt once again slows down the conversation and does his very best to rechannel what is being said to try and get the answer that he is seeking.
During the time that Kylie went missing, because you made a statement that you believe that it could possibly be, it's just an accident. You made that statement, and you seemed very convinced on that you believed it was just an accident. And during the 3 days that she was missing, you decided that it would be important for Sami to get her story out.
No,
even though
because
you believed it was an accident. Hold on, let me finish. I'll let you finish.
Well, okay.
Because you believed it was an accident. That's all. That's where I'm confused at. You believed it was possibly an accident, but you still wanted her to reach out to a true crime community.
Well, because we believed it was before. Okay.
So Curt actually changed the question just a little bit here, and it threw Meghan into a spin. Clearly, the answer to this question is one that she wasn't mentally prepared to give, as in she hadn't come up with the right story in her head yet, because she got in a bit of a flap.
I'm just trying to understand. I'm not trying to corner you or nothing. I'm just asking questions based off of what I'm hearing. That's it.
No, you're fine. We did not, or I should say, I don't know how to say that because I now know we and I and all these make sense. I'm taking a breath.
Yeah, just relax. Listen, hold on. Take a breath. Relax for a second. You're not on trial. I know how anxiety is. I know how, I hear it in your voice.
Okay. Yes.
Once again, Curt showing his skills at basically talking her down off the ledge and getting her to refocus on what was being asked of her. So, making her pause, making her think. I think Curt did a great job in this particular interview because, as you can see, she came into it defensive. And she was definitely more anxious in this particular panel interview than in previous ones because she knew that people were starting to question her. So kudos to Curt for doing a really good effort of trying to keep it all on track.
So ask me the question again.
Okay. So during the time that she went missing, it was about 3 days. And Sami made an appearance on a true crime. You said that.
Yes. Oh, okay. I got it.
Okay.
The first 3 days that when we didn't, I had talked to Sam prior on Saturday. I had actually had a conversation with Sam,
Okay.
and I asked her a few questions, and what she answered to me at the time was very 18-year-old-ish answers. So she was very vague. She had people behind her that I didn't know were there. And so on the and that was on the phone, and we at that point in time she even said that they did not know what happened. Like she said in her interview, is that
okay? So first of all, here she's saying that she spoke to Sami on the Saturday, not on the Sunday, because other narratives that she comes out with, she says she spoke to Sami on the Sunday night. So it's interesting here that she's contradicting herself. And to me, what makes it more interesting is I could understand someone being confused in terms of saying, I spoke to her the day after, because that could be interpreted as the day after we found out that Kylie was missing, meaning on the Sunday, or the day after the party on the Saturday. But by specifically saying Saturday, and then later on saying Sunday night, it seems to be a very deliberate kind of contradiction. So straight away, that makes me question how many times she spoke to Sami prior to the IckedMel Tony Dodge interviews, and when did she actually speak to Sami, and why is it that she's being evasive about when she spoke to Sami. Now, I am going to say here that I find it interesting that she talks about Sami being quite vague and being like an 18-year-old when she asked her questions, which to me says that Sami was being evasive in her answers and giving partial answers, or perhaps not real answers at all, maybe lying to her. So that immediately makes me question if you are recognizing that you're speaking to the person who apparently was the last person to see this 16-year-old alive, and they're being really vague with their answers and acting like an 18-year-old, in other words, being evasive. Why would you come out on all these panels and defend them? Why would you coach them prior to them doing an interview on someone else's YouTube channel so that they can give the right answers on that interview? It doesn't make sense to me. I think it's actually quite telling here what she's saying about Sami and Sami being evasive. Because most people, if they're talking to an 18-year-old and they're being evasive, would surely not then stick their head out and stand up for this person when a child is missing and nobody knows what happened. It goes back to the question of, why did Meghan Cole really come out? Because she said she didn't even like Sami that much. So, already here, I have questions.
We don't know if someone had taken...
Wait a minute. Oh, okay. That just threw me off. Okay, go ahead. My bad. You did not know. She said in the interview that she did not know. I'm sorry for interrupting.
That Sami, because I'm going off of what Sam said, because she said the same thing to me at the time. So that's why because that's what I knew at the time. So when Sam said this at that time, that was the same thing that she had told me. And she said the same thing to Tony Dodge in the interview.
Try to pause. Try to speak for a second and take a pause and let everybody kind of collect their thoughts.
No,
I'm just helping. I'm really trying to help you.
I'm actually appreciative of that, because that's what my daughter does. Is she like, when I've gone through, like, I've had her on a panel with me and I needed her to sit there and say, don't argue and just stop. And I went, okay.
The best Meghan Cole truths are the ones that are the unprompted comments. In other words, comments that aren't a response to a question, but an aside when she's trying to answer a question. What she's just said here about Daisy is actually quite telling. Let's unpack it a little bit. So she said that when Daisy is with her, when she goes on panels, when Daisy is sitting with her when she goes on panels, it helps because Daisy tells her when to stop and to not argue. But consider this. So we can't speak for the Michelle Sutton interview, But I think we can be pretty confident that Daisy wasn't beside Meghan Cole for that 5-hour interview with Michelle Sutton, because she was basically non-stop just giving out a bunch of information without stopping or anything. And we know that the following interview, the one with Tyler Feller, she basically was saying, I can't really give answers because my daughter has told me not to do this anymore. So what panels is she talking about? That takes us way back to IckedMel. That really odd IckedMel time or interview where she'd give out a bit of information and then her phone would apparently drop out. So is that the one she's talking about? The one that was only a few days after Kylie went missing? Because so many of us have said that the IckedMel one sounded like she was there with someone who was telling her when to stop or telling her what to say, and that she kept hanging up to find out what the next thing was to say. That then leads to the question of her saying that Daisy wasn't around during that period of time. She claims that she kept Daisy out of town when Kylie was missing. And she claims that Daisy wasn't even in town when Kylie went missing. And yet she's talking about Daisy sitting beside her while she's doing panels and guiding her. And since we can eliminate these later panels, it seems like she is saying that Daisy was there with her when she did the IckedMel phone calls. So if that's the case, why was it so important to her to lie to everyone and say that Daisy wasn't in town when Kylie went missing, and Daisy wasn't in town for the entire period of time that Kylie was missing?
But okay, so when Sam was talking in the interview, she had said exactly that we did not know if there had been someone that was sinister involved, or if it was an accident. When I asked Sam, when I talked to her, I asked her a few questions on the phone on Saturday that I asked her, and she answered them.
Just pointing out, once again, she said she spoke to her on Saturday. So it wasn't a bit of confusion the first time she said it, mixing up Saturday and Sunday. She said it twice now, so in her head, it was Saturday when she spoke to Sami.
Pretty directly. She did not have to think about the answers. It was more off of just what happened. It was more off of, this is fact. Like, that's all she knew. And she said the same thing repetitively to everybody.
Okay, that is a direct contradiction of what she just said a little while earlier. Here she's saying that Sami was very clear with her answers, very direct, and yet earlier she was saying that she was being evasive with her answers. So within this one interview, she's managed to contradict herself a few times. So the conversation goes off at a tangent at this point, and there's no more discussion of why the choice of IckedMel and Tony Dodge. So to me, in this particular instance, she hasn't entirely clarified the choice of IckedMel and Tony Dodge. She's contradicted herself. She says she's never heard of them, but then she talks about the Amber Heard case and that she followed that, and we know that IckedMel did actually cover that. There's also a few other instances when she contradicts herself regarding this, but one interesting thing to note from this particular instance is that she admits that she told Sami which creators that Sami should choose to do her interview. Whereas in other instances, she claims that she has no idea why Sami went the way she did. I'll be delving further into this Captain Curt panel interview with plenty more videos, so please keep an eye out for them. Meanwhile, thank you for listening. If you haven't clicked the like button, please do. Let's get Kylie's name out there in the algorithm and get people seeing that we are still talking about Kylie. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for listening.
I've been to wonder